23-24.
25. 23, 24 is
Text 25. Canto 3, chapter 26, text 25. And this verse says, Sahasra Shiratnam Sakshad Yam Anantam Rakshaksate Sankara Sana Kyam Pumsam Bhutendriya Mano Mayam. And the translation is the threefold Ahankara, the source of the gross elements. The senses and the mind is identical with them because it is their cause. It is known by the name of Sankarsana, who is already Lord Ananta with 1,000 heads. Okay, well, there's no purport there, so go to the next verse, text 26. This false ego is characterized as the doer, as an instrument, and as an effect. It is further characterized as serene, active, or dull, according to how it is influenced by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Ahankara, or false ego, is transformed into the demigods, the controlling directors of material affairs. As an instrument, the false ego is represented as different senses and sense organs, and as the result of the combination of the demigods and the senses, material objects are produced in the material world. We are producing so many things, and this is called advancement of civilization. But actually, the advancement of civilization is a manifestation of the false ego. By false ego, all material things are produced as objects of enjoyment. One has to cease increasing artificial necessities in the form of material objects. One great Acharya, Narottama Dasa Thakur, has lamented that when one deviates from pure consciousness of Vasudeva or Krishna consciousness, he becomes entangled in material activities. The exact words he uses are Satsangachadi Kainu Asate Vilasa Te Karane Lagila Ye Karma Bandafansa. I have given up the pure status of consciousness because I wanted to enjoy in the temporary material manifestation. Therefore, I have been entangled in a network of actions and reactions. All right, so this is the plight of the materialistic person. They become a victim of illusory energy and they're spending their whole time in sense gratification, not thinking about what is the real purpose of life and how to attain that purpose. This is the thought of a genuine devotee. In other words, genuine devotee will think, how have I become conditioned by the modes of material nature? How am I going to free myself? And how should I perform my duties? For whom should I perform my duties? So the uh, the false ego puts a person in a state of illusion, and one can stay in that state of illusion their whole lifetime. unless one comes in contact with a pure devotee and engages in devotional service, then they can be awakened to what is reality. Otherwise, we go through life completely flummoxed or confused, and we never really actually understand who we are, what is our relationship with Krishna, how to function in that relationship, etc. Okay, so therefore, in this verse, there's a Sanskrit quote that says, Tat Ganga Chadikainu Asate Vilasa Te Karanela Vila Ye Kapansa. I have given up the pure status of consciousness because I wanted to enjoy in the temporary material manifestation. Therefore, I have been entangled in the network of actions and reactions. In other words, in the network of karma, actions and reactions. So these are the statements of devotees who are experienced. The verse, the text 26 says, this false ego is characterized as the doer, as an instrument, and as an effect. It is further characterized as serene, active, or dull, according to how it is influenced by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Well, if we're under the influence of goodness, passion, or ignorance, that means that we are not really in control of ourselves. We're controlled by the modes of material nature, which are always fluctuating. And because of that, in the purport, it says ahankara, or false ego, is transformed into the demigods, the controlling directors of material affairs. As an instrument, false ego is represented as different senses and sense organs as the result of the combination of the demigods and the senses. Material objects are produced in the material world. Demigods and the senses, main objects, are produced in the material world. We are producing so many things, and this is called advancement of civilization. But factually, the advancement of civilization is a manifestation of the false ego. Yeah, like every year there are new models of cars, and every year there are buildings that are torn down, and new buildings are made in their place. So building and breaking, Prabhupada says, modern society is all about building and breaking. Now, if we go into ancient times, buildings were built to last for a very, very long time. Like we have the pyramids. They've been there for thousands of years. And they're still let's say, there's still parts of the pyramids that haven't been understood yet. And therefore, there are many mysterious things. How did people hundreds or thousands of years ago go build such amazing buildings that are still existing today? Nobody knows. Some people think that people from outer space came to the earth and built the pyramids. So, and the pyramids are still there. They haven't deteriorated. They're built in such a way that they can resist so many different conditions of nature. So obviously, people in the past had a very advanced scientific culture. And the proof is that you have buildings like the pyramids that are still existing today in their full state of development. And even up until today, the scientists are confused about how these pyramids were built because people had to uh, cut rocks, but rocks that were gigantic, and move them long distances to build the pyramids. And how they actually did it, they're not sure. They have theories about it, but they're not absolutely sure how it happened. So, actually, that's a good thing. Look up the pyramids. How were they built? How were? It's a good question. Yes, chap. Whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. How were the pyramids built? Okay, so if we go to text 27, Vai karikad vikur vanan manastatvam ajayata yet sankalpa vikal vyam vartate kama sambhava. From the false ego of goodness, another transformation takes place. From this evolves the mind, whose thoughts and reflections give rise to desire. What does it say about the pyramid?
Construction of the pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid of Giza, has fascinated historians, archaeologists, and engineers for centuries. While the exact methods remain a subject of debate, scholars generally agree on several key aspects of how they were likely. Workforce of organization, skilled laborers, contrary to
Laborers. Okay, go ahead.
Contrary to earlier beliefs about slave labor, evidence suggests that the pyramids were built by a well-fed, organized workforce of skilled laborers and seasonal workers. Rotational teams. Workers were likely divided into teams or crews that specialized in different tasks such as quarrying, transporting, and laying stones, quarrying and material. Local
It means
limestone.
cutting stone. Go ahead.
Local limestone. Most of the pyramid stones were quarried nearby. Granite. For the inner chambers and passages, Sparta granite from Aswan over 800 kilometers away was used and transported via the Nile. Transportation, sledges and lubrication. Heavy stones were moved on sledges with wet and sand placed in front to reduce friction. Boats. Stones from distant quarries were transported along the Nile on specially designed boats. Construction techniques. Ramps. The most widely accepted theory involves ramps. Several designs have been proposed. Straight ramps built directly up one side of the pyramid. Zigzag ramps running up in a zigzag pattern along the pyramid's face. Spiral ramps encircling the pyramid as it rose. Levers and pulleys. Simple tools like wooden levers were likely used to lift and position stones. Precision and alignment. The pyramid's alignment with the cardinal points north, south, east, and west, and the precise construction reflect advanced knowledge of geometry and astronomy. Tools like plumb bobs, straightedges, and sighting instruments were likely used. Finishing touches. Casing stone. The outer surface was originally covered with polished white limestone which reflected sunlight. Most of these stones have since been removed. Despite these theories, some aspects remain speculative, like the exact methods used for the massive barrier blocks in the King's Chamber, or how workers achieved such precise alignments. Ongoing studies, including archaeological discoveries and experimental archaeology, continue to refine our understanding to this incredible achievement. So there is still
What the last 3 words are what? Incredible what?
achievement.
Okay.
So basically, they still have speculations, and all these are theories.
Yes. So it's just a miracle how they were able to build such big buildings with gigantic stones, perfectly cut and perfectly fitted together. They didn't have to use, I mean, the stones fit together in such a way that they didn't have to use anything to keep them, together. They're perfectly cut, but they're gigantic stones. How did they move them? How did they cut them so perfectly? The whole thing is a mystery. But the mystery is facing us right in the face in these pyramids. And the pyramids, they still haven't completely explored the pyramids. There are a lot of different, uh, what you would call chambers inside the pyramids that have not all been detected yet. So it's just confusing how, like 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, people were able to build such amazing constructions as the pyramid. Even today, if you wanted to build a pyramid, it would be very, very difficult because you would have to, first of all, get the stones, and they're gigantic, gigantic stones, very, very heavy. Move them and then fit them together perfectly. It's almost impossible in modern times. And that's why nobody has built any pyramids in the modern times. So you can see that in ancient times, people had, some people had very advanced knowledge of construction and so forth. And they're able to build buildings that can resist the elements of nature for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, most buildings today that are built, they last maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years, maybe 200 years, and then they're torn down. And Prabhupada says that the modern civilization is building and breaking. Building and breaking. Yeah, because the materials used for building the buildings that exist today are not meant to exist more than 100 or 200 years. And then they're torn down and replaced by other buildings. Okay, but ancient buildings such as the pyramids have been there for thousands of years, and they haven't deteriorated. And that's a miracle, you know. So that testament of the ancient science is there. You cannot deny it. Okay, so let's see. We go to text 27, 28, 28, I think.
We are on 27.
27.
Purport we have.
What?
The purport we haven't.
Yeah. So, Canto 3, chapter 26, verse number 27. From the false ego of goodness, another transformation takes place. From this evolves the mind, whose thoughts and reflections give rise to desire. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The symptoms of the mind are determination and rejection, which are due to different kinds of desires. We desire that which is favorable to our sense gratification, and we reject that which is not favorable to sense gratification. The material mind is not fixed, but the very same mind can be fixed when engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, as long as the mind is on the material platform, it is hovering, and all this rejection and acceptance is asa, temporary. It is stated that he whose mind is not fixed in Krishna consciousness must hover between acceptance and rejection. However, advanced a man is in academic qualifications, as long as he is not fixed in Krishna consciousness, he will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix his mind on a particular subject matter. Very profound statement. So, however advanced a man is in academic qualification, as long as he is not fixed in Krishna consciousness, he will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix his mind on a particular subject matter. Well, this is the dilemma of modern civilization. They're all, and it begins in childhood and it goes throughout adulthood. This building and breaking, building and breaking. So one can spend hours building a very elaborate sand castle at the beach. And when they come back in the morning, they can see that the high tide just wiped it out completely, no matter how elaborate that sand castle was. So basically, all modern civilization is about building sand castles that are not that do not test, do not let's say pass the test of longevity. Most buildings are not meant to exist past 50 or 100 years. However, the pyramids they've been there for thousands of years. So that just proves that people had a higher knowledge of construction and purpose of a building, like pyramids. Most buildings, like I said today, most buildings are not meant to last more than 50 or 100 years, and then they're torn down and replaced by other buildings. Okay, so So a takeaway here from today's verse and purport is from the false ego of goodness, another transformation takes place. From this evolves the mind, whose thoughts and reflections give rise to desire. Well, yeah, everybody has desires. I want this, I want that. So, and the mind is the, let's say, fertile ground which all these desires appear and disappear. So it says in the purport, the symptoms of the mind are determination and rejection. In other words, acceptance and rejection, which are due to different kinds of desires. We desire that which is favorable to our sense gratification, and we reject that which is not favorable to sense gratification. This starts even in childhood. Like two kids can be playing together, but they only have one toy, and they actually get into a fight. So that's why it said that the material mind is not fixed, but the very same mind can be fixed when engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness. So young kids, when they're in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and so forth, they actually can get into fights over silly things because they become attached to something and they don't want to share it with others. So oftentimes, the parents tell their kids, no, you have to share this toy with your, neighbor's son. So right from basically the beginning of life, that selfishness and let's say the desire to own something and not share it with others, it's just part of the consciousness of children. So they have to be trained to share things and not be so ready to fight, to individually enjoy things and not share with others. So this statement also is important. The symptoms of the mind are determination and rejection. So someone decides to do something, and someone rejects and decides to not do something. And it's due to different kinds of desires. We desire that which is favorable to our sense gratification, and we reject that which is not favorable to sense gratification. The material mind is not fixed, but the very same mind can be fixed when engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, as long as the mind is on the material platform, it is hovering. And all hovering means it's not fixed. And all this rejection and acceptance is temporary. It is stated that he whose mind is not fixed in Krishna consciousness must hover between acceptance and rejection. However advanced a man is in academic qualifications, as long as he is not fixed in Krishna consciousness, he will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix his mind on a particular subject matter. Well, we see this even from childhood. Kids fight for having a toy, and once they have the toy, they don't want to share it with other kids and so forth. So when you get older, the same thing is happening. There's this competition all the time, and the principle of what you would call the uh, survival of the fittest. You usually use that term to represent uncivilized people, but it's happening all the time. Like competition between companies. So one company is competing with another company for business, uh, contracts. So it's like the survival of the fittest. Look that phrase up, survival of the fittest. It's usually meant for, like the uh, animals that have legs are usually more fit than snakes that don't have legs. So when there's a forest fire, most of the snakes die because they can't run fast enough to avoid being burned by the fire. So there's this struggle in nature of the survival of the fittest, because the animals that have four legs, they can run very quickly and avoid the fire. And the snakes that don't have legs, well, most of them die in the fire. They can't run fast enough to get away from the fire. Okay, what does it say? Survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest is a concept closely associated with the theory of evolution by natural selection proposed by Charles Darwin in his book On the Origin of Species. However, the phrase itself was coined by the philosopher Herbert Spencer after reading Darwin's work. It describes how organisms best adapted to their environment are more likely to survive, reproduce, and pass on their advantageous traits to the next generation. Key principles: natural selection. Traits that improve an organism's ability to survive and reproduce become more common in a population over time. Example, giraffes with longer necks could access food in tall trees and thus were more likely to survive and reproduce.
That whole theory is nonsense. It's completely nonsense. Go ahead.
Adaptation. Over generations, species develop characteristics that enhance their fitness in a specific environment. For example, polar bears evolved thick fur and fat layers to survive in the Arctic climate.
I didn't understand it. Read that again.
Basically, over generations, the species develop characteristics that enhance their fitness in a specific environment.
That's nonsense.
Yeah,
Anyway, go ahead.
Like polar bears evolving thick hair or fur to survive in the Arctic climates.
Yeah.
Competition. Organisms compete for limited resources such as food, mates, and shelter. Only the most fit individuals succeed in reproducing.
But yet all the species exist.
Fitness. In the evolutionary terms, fitness refers to an organism's ability to survive and reproduce, not necessarily its physical strength or endurance. Misconceptions. Doesn't mean the strongest. Fittest refers to reproductive success and adaptation, not just physical strength. An organism may be fit because of its intelligence, cooperation, and other traits. Example, ant colonies thrive through cooperation rather than individual strength.
What? Say that this sentence again.
The ant colonies
Yeah.
thrive through cooperation rather than individual strength.
Right.
Another misconception, not a justification for social theories. This concept has been misapplied to justify social and political ideologies like social Darwinism, which incorrectly promotes inequality as natural. Modern
That's an
interpretation.
interesting statement. Read that again.
Yeah, so the concept has been misapplied.
Misapplied.
Yeah,
Which concept?
this survival of the fittest
Yeah.
has been misapplied to justify social and political ideologies like social Darwinism, which incorrectly promotes inequality as natural,
As what?
as a natural thing. Like so, basically, what they're saying is that social Darwinism accepts that there will be inequality in the species.
Yeah,
And
but then there are uh, and there's uh, the possibility of people like the uh, communists or like the
socialists,
yeah um, the Germans whatever
eugenics,
yeah they
Nazis,
the Nazis yeah they try and eliminate what they think is inferior human beings to build a superior race of people. So they kill, gypsies and they kill black people, and they kill Jews, they kill this one, that one, to purify the race and make a super race of blue eyes and blonde hair and tall and strong, ideal, persons. Although Hitler himself was not real tall and didn't have this so-called Teutonic, physical body. So the whole theory is nonsense of having a super race by culling, meaning uh, killing the lesser, human beings and just inbreeding the superior looking and beings. It's a very dangerous philosophy, and it was practiced, and it is still practiced in some places. So why don't you look up, what is it, eugenics? See what that word means, eugenics. It's basically, killing the living entities that do not have so-called superior physical, uh, you know, body or intelligence.
yeah,
So or they don't reproduce. They only want people of superior physical states to reproduce, and they want the lesser people to be killed. Go ahead.
eugenics is the study and practice of selectively breeding humans
Yeah.
to improve the genetic quality of the population.
Yes.
The term derived from the Greek words "eu" means good, genes means born, was first coined by Francis Galton in the late 19th century. Galton, inspired by his cousin Charles Darwin's work on natural selection, proposed eugenics as a way to encourage the reproduction of people with desirable traits and discourage or prevent the reproduction of those with perceived undesirable traits.
all nonsense Britishers. Yeah, good.
So the core principles of eugenics is positive eugenics, encouraging individuals deemed genetically superior to have more children. Negative eugenics, restricting reproduction of the individuals deemed genetically inferior.
Yeah, they basically cut off
Sterilization.
their genitals.
Yeah. Eugenics gained widespread popularity in the early 20th century, especially in the Western countries, and led to various programs, some of which caused significant harm. For example, in the United States, there was a forced sterilization of over 60,000 people under the laws targeting individuals with mental illness, disabilities, and those living in poverty. Immigration restrictions, policies limited immigration from countries deemed genetically undesirable. Germany, under the Nazi regime, eugenics formed the basis of policies aimed at creating the Aryan master race.
Yeah, superior human beings.
This included forced sterilizations, euthanasia programs, and genocide. Other countries such as Sweden, Canada, and Japan also implemented forced sterilization programs in the 20th century.
What were the three countries?
Sweden, Canada, and Japan.
Yeah. Oh, you see, people think, oh, Canadians are such nice people. Actually, they're not. They're very mean. Very mean people. Go ahead.
Criticism and ethical issues. Eugenics is widely condemned today due to its pseudo-scientific basis and its association with human rights abuses. Key criticisms include, number one, violation of human rights. Forced sterilizations and other eugenics practices violate bodily autonomy and individual freedoms. Number two, scientific flaws. The complexity of genetics and the environment's role in shaping traits such as intelligence make eugenics unscientific. Discrimination. Eugenics reinforce racist, classist, and ableist.
And what?
Ableist or ableist means who's able, who's not able. Ideologies by labeling certain people as inferior. Modern relevance. Although traditional eugenics programs have been abandoned, ethical debates persist in the context of modern genetic technologies. Genetic engineering. Tools like CRISPR allow for gene editing to eliminate genetic issues, but they raise concerns about creating designer babies. So there is that genetic editing, gene editing. Then there is prenatal screening. Screening for genetic disorders can lead to ethical dilemmas such as decisions to terminate pregnancies based on genetic traits.
Yeah, one of my daughters, he had a flu while she was pregnant, and the doctors and even the devotees said that she should have an abortion because the child would be born, deformed. So she called me up from India and she told me what the devotees were telling her to do and what first of all, what the doctors were telling her, and then the devotees also. And I said, look, you're living in Vrindavan, it's a holy place. Just ignore what these people are saying. And the child she had was completely normal. But she was, even the devotees were trying to convince her to have an abortion. Yeah. Crazy world we live in. Yeah, because when you're pregnant, if you have, let's say, severe flu or something like that, there's this possibility that the child will be born deformed, right? Because of the health state of the woman. Okay, so any other points?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Okay, so I think we were on text 27.
Mhm.
Do we read the purport?
Yeah.
Text 28. The mind of the living entity is known by the name of Lord Aniruddha, the supreme ruler of the saints. He possesses a bluish-black form resembling a lotus flower growing in the autumn. He is found slowly by the yogis. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The system of yoga entails controlling the mind, and the Lord of the mind is Aniruddha. It is stated that Aniruddha is forehand with Sudarshana chakra, conch shell, club, and lotus flower. There are 24 forms of Vishnu, each differently named. Among these 24 forms, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and Vasudeva are depicted very nicely in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it is stated that Aniruddha is worshipped by the yogis. Meditation upon voidness is a modern invention of the fertile brain of some speculator. Actually, the process of yoga meditation, as prescribed in this verse, should be fixed upon the form of Aniruddha. By meditating on Aniruddha, one can become free from the agitation of acceptance and rejection. When one's mind is fixed upon Aniruddha, one gradually becomes God realized. He approaches the pure status of Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of yoga. Okay, so yoga actually means coming closer to God. And the way to do that is by meditation, but meditating on the different aspects of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, here it says, the system of yoga entails controlling the mind, and the Lord of the mind is Aniruddha. It is stated that Aniruddha is four-handed with Sudarshana chakra, conch shell, club, and lotus flower. There are 24 forms of Vishnu, each differently named. Among these 24 forms, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and Vasudeva are depicted very nicely in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it is stated that Aniruddha is worshipped by the yogis. Meditation upon voidness is a modern invention of the fertile brain of some speculator. Actually, the process of yoga meditation, as prescribed in this verse, should be fixed upon the form of Aniruddha. By meditating on Aniruddha, one can become free from the agitation of acceptance and rejection. That's what the mind does. The superior to the mind is the intelligence, and superior to intelligence is the soul. So most people who are living on the level of the mind, they accept and they reject. Just like you take your kid to buy a Christmas present, and then he comes home and he starts playing with his Christmas present gift. And a day or two, or 5 days, or 10 days later, he breaks some part of it, and then it ends up in a junk pile. And he doesn't want to play with it anymore. Or he might get a gift, like let's say he gets a baseball bat as a gift, but another kid gets a present that's like a car, with remote control. So very quickly, the kid that got the baseball bat, he throws it away and tries to take away the other kid's car, right? Because the car is more, let's say, satisfying the selfish and desire of the kid. So this acceptance and rejection is going on all the time in the minds of people. Just like a man might have a nice wife, nice children, and he becomes attracted by another woman, so he rejects his wife, gets a divorce, and marries someone else. Or he just runs around with other women and ignores his wife. So this acceptance and rejection is going on all the time, unfortunately. So the system of yoga entails controlling the mind, and the lord of the mind is Aniruddha. It is stated that Aniruddha is four-handed with Sudarshana Chakra, conch shells, club, and lotus flower. There are 24 forms of Vishnu, each differently named. Among these 24 forms, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and Vasudeva are depicted very nicely in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it is stated that Aniruddha is worshipped by the yogis. Meditation upon voidness is a modern invention of the fertile brain of some speculator. Actually, the process of yoga meditation, as prescribed in this verse, should be fixed upon the form of Aniruddha. So Aniruddha form is a Vishnu form with 4 arms. And by meditating on Aniruddha, one can become free from the agitation of acceptance and rejection. When one's mind is fixed on Aniruddha, one gradually becomes God-realized. He approaches the pure status of Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of yoga. Okay. So the Aniruddha is one of the forms of Vishnu, which are usually 4-armed form of the Lord. Okay, let's go on to the next verse. Text 29. By transformation of the false ego in passion, intelligence takes birth. O virtuous lady, the functions of intelligence are to help in ascertaining the nature of objects when they come into view, and to help the senses. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Intelligence is the discriminating power to understand an object, and it helps the senses make choices. Therefore, intelligence is supposed to be the master of the senses. The perfection of intelligence is attained when one becomes fixed in the activities of Krishna consciousness. By the proper use of intelligence, one's consciousness is expanded, and the ultimate expansion of consciousness is Krishna consciousness. Okay, so the Nazis, they were training people to be intelligent, but their so-called training was to make a super race of men and women that had Teutonic, say, physical structure, blue eyes, blonde hair, tall, strong, and so forth. And the whole theory of a superior race was a failure. And eventually they were defeated in war. So all the attempts to create a superior race, either by eugenics or any other type of speculative way, will be a failure because there are always going to be different types of human beings based on their karma. So if you cull people, in other words, you kill the children that may be born with some deformation, or may be born very small, or may be born with some mental problem. You kill all those children and you only keep the children that are healthy and strong and tall and this and that. Those type of attempts may work for a short period of time, but eventually they'll fail. Why? Because, well, anyway, you do see, like in some African tribes, they're all pygmies. They're all very small. And other tribes, they're all really big, right? So there is this type of breeding that takes place naturally in nature. Some tribes are miniature pygmies, and other tribes are very tall. Some people are not intelligent, other people are very intelligent. But all these things are what you would say they're not perfect. What is perfect is a person who becomes Krishna conscious, whether they're tall or not tall, whether they're white or black. The fact that they're Krishna conscious means that they are a genuine specimen of a devotee. And a genuine specimen of a devotee is not worried about the physical traits. They're concerned about the culture of Krishna consciousness. So in Krishna consciousness, there might be very small people, there might be very tall people, there might be very skinny people, there might be black people, there might be white people, it doesn't matter. As long as they're Krishna conscious and practicing Krishna consciousness sincerely. So they're all accepted. Okay. So are there any questions?
So the desire in the previous verses, the soul itself as the actual source of the desire, right? And then obviously because like in the spiritual desire, we do have spiritual desire. But the previous verse,
Well, it says from the false ego of goodness, another transformation takes place. From this evolves the mind, whose thoughts and reflections give rise to desire.
this seems to indicate that the desire, like in a pure Krishna conscious state, there should not be any desire, because then you don't have false ego, and mind is
Okay, it's the criterion. If the criterion is Krishna consciousness, then all people are accepted as long as they follow the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. But if the criterion is sense gratification, then people reject that which is not favorable to sense gratification. Therefore, the material mind is not fixed, but the very same mind can be fixed when engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So the material mind is not fixed. It's always vacillating. Different styles of clothing, haircuts, tanning. You know, people go and get in these tanning parlors, and then they get tans in the wintertime, and they keep doing it until they get skin cancer. And it's a very bad thing to get artificial tanning because you can easily get skin cancer. But yet people do it out of their vanity. Look that word up, vanity.
right.
Yeah, it's false pride. Someone looks like they just came back from, Florida, but they didn't go to Florida. They went to the tanning parlor. And oftentimes you can get skin disease and skin cancer by going to these tanning parlors. Okay. So I guess our takeaway is the symptoms of the mind are determination and rejection, which are due to different kinds of desire. We desire that which is favorable to our sense gratification, and we reject that which is not favorable to our sense gratification. The material mind is not fixed, but this very same mind can be fixed when engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, as long as the mind is on the material platform, it is hovering. In other words, it's not steady. And all this rejection and acceptance is asat, meaning temporary. It is stated that he whose mind is not fixed in Krishna consciousness must hover between acceptance and rejection. However advanced a man is in academic qualification, as long as he is not fixed in Krishna consciousness, he will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix his mind on a particular subject matter. Very important. We have to train our children to fix their mind on Krishna. Then this acceptance and rejection won't happen in their life. Of course, they have discrimination. they will reject nonsense and accept what is good sense. But they do that on the basis of Krishna consciousness, not on the basis of sense gratification. That's why it says here, however advanced a man is in academic qualifications, as long as he's not fixed in Krishna consciousness, he will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix his mind on a particular subject matter. Okay, so that's why you have divorces. Two people get married, and then after some time, they get divorced and they try and find someone else. It's very rare now. I mean, but still, there are couples that are married, let's say, 60 years or sometimes 70 years, right? And there's no question of divorce. But today, I think it's 50% of marriages will end in divorce. And 60 or 70% of those who get married again get divorced. So there's a lot of divorce in the Western world. Whereas previously it was not this much. But that's why it says, however advanced a man is in academic qualifications, as long as he is not fixed in Krishna consciousness, he will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix his mind on a particular subject matter. That's our takeaway. We should meditate on this. Very important. So this academic qualification is not so important. What is important? It's the ability to practice Krishna consciousness with the mind fixed on Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, we don't get into the, let's say, merry-go-round of accepting and rejecting and never being able to fix the mind on a particular subject matter. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have a question.
Yes.
Guru Maharaj, from these two verses, so we see the mind is a transformation from the false ego of mode of goodness, and intelligence from the transformation of false ego of mode of passion. So because mind is coming from the mode of goodness, it should be superior, but we treat intelligence as superior than mind. That's where my question popped up, Guru Maharaj.
That's a good question. Actually, it says here, the material mind is not fixed, but the very same mind can be fixed when engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, as long as the mind is on the material platform, it is hovering. In other words, it's not steady. And all this rejection and acceptance is asat, temporary. It is stated that he whose mind is not fixed in Krishna consciousness must hover between acceptance and rejection. However advanced a man is in academic qualifications, as long as he's not fixed in Krishna consciousness, he will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix his mind on a particular subject matter. So that's the answer to your question. As if we just have advancement in academic qualification, but not in Krishna consciousness, then we will be caught in this net of acceptance and rejection and never be able to fix the mind on a particular subject matter. Yeah, so when you buy a video game for your child as a present in a birthday present, or a what do you call it, a Christmas present. Now your child will be, let's say, conditioned to accept and reject. Right? So it's better not to give them those types of presents because they condition the person, the child, not to focus the mind on self-realization, but to focus the mind on gadgets. This gadget, that gadget. They can't fix the mind on Krishna consciousness. They always want another type of gadget to engage their minds away from Krishna consciousness. So here it's explaining the symptom of the mind. The symptoms of the mind are determination and rejection, which are due to different kinds of desires. We desire that which is favorable to our sense gratification, and we reject that which is not favorable to sense gratification. The material mind is not fixed, but the very same mind can be fixed when engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That's the main statement there. Otherwise, as long as the mind is on the material platform, it is hovering. In other words, it's not fixed. And all this rejection and acceptance is asat, temporary. It is stated that he whose mind is not fixed in Krishna consciousness must hover, meaning must be going back and forth between acceptance and rejection. However advanced a man is in academic qualifications, as long as he's not fixed in Krishna consciousness, he will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix his mind on a particular subject matter. Well, this is what's happening today. There are thousands and thousands of kids who are only interested in academic qualifications, but they're not interested in Krishna consciousness. So they are caught in this net of acceptance and rejection. And never are they able to fix the mind on a particular subject matter. So this acceptance and rejection, as long as the mind is on a material platform, it is hovering, and all this rejection and acceptance is asat, temporary. It is stated that he whose mind is not Krishna consciousness must hover between acceptance and rejection. However advanced a man is in academic qualifications, as long as he is not fixed in Krishna consciousness. He will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix his mind on a particular subject matter. That's a big warning right there. That's why we chant Hare Krishna, Maha Mantra, to fix the mind on one thing, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then we rise above the, let's say, merry-go-round of acceptance and rejection. So now we're able to fix the mind on a particular subject matter. And what is that subject matter? Krishna consciousness. So you can see that a boy or a girl who fixes their mind on Krishna consciousness, they become regulated and they are predictable and they have all good qualities. Right? And kids that they're not Krishna conscious, they're always flickering, going from one thing to another, accepting and rejecting. And it goes into adulthood. And eventually, adults, they get married, they get divorced, they get married, they get divorced. Some movie stars, they get married and divorced, 10 times. They can't control the mind. So they just are engaged in accepting and rejecting and never able to fix the mind on a particular subject matter. Haribol. Even though they're rich, even though they have nice clothes, nice cars, nice houses, they can't control the mind. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Continue. Text 28 tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please fix your mind on Krishna. No more accepting and rejecting, but focusing the mind on Krishna. Yes.
So one Krishna conscious person is also accepting and rejecting, not on the
Not based on sense
sense,
gratification.
but based on the Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
It is favorable to me. Okay, any other questions?
At one point, Prabhupada got angry at the fact that devotees were getting married and then they were breaking their marriages. So at one point he said, I'm not going to do any more marriages. So it just proved that the devotees, although they were chanting Hare Krishna, jumping up and down in Sankirtan and so forth, but they still had not developed the maturity of a devotee. The devotee will follow the principle of make the best of the bad bargain. So you might marry someone, and after some time you realize, well, I didn't really know who this person was. But you should make the best of a bad bargain. When Prabhupada got married, after a short while, he asked his father if he could get a second wife because he didn't like the wife that he had. But his father said no. And therefore, even though he didn't like his wife, he had 5 kids. and eventually, he took sannyas. So we always have to follow the principle of make the best of a bad bargain. We can't say, well, I married this person, but I don't like this person. I made a mistake and marry a second person. And you say, well, I don't like this person. So I'll get a divorce and marry someone else. And actually, previously, let's say 50 years before, divorce was difficult to get. Nowadays, it's very easy to get a divorce. And because of that, people are in court all the time getting divorces. Whereas previously it was difficult to get a divorce. It was not recommended. You'd have to spend a lot of money and go through a lot of difficulties to get a divorce. Now it's very easy. You just say, "Oh, I don't want to be with this person anymore," you know? And you separate and you get a divorce. Right? Okay. Of course, the Srila
Srila
Prabhupada ki
One
jai.
question,
Thank you very much.
One question. You had mentioned about your daughter got the advice from the devotees as well.
Yes.
But how a neophyte person will figure out that the devotees around him are not giving a bona fide advice because they are senior or to that neophyte devotee. So how to figure out that the devotees are giving a bona fide advice or like a wrong advice? Because constantly in different situations we get advice, get advice from the other devotees. Oh, this is not right, or do this.
Right.
So how to determine that? Like, because based upon seniority, generally we take the advice.
No, we depend on Shastra. Does Shastra recommend abortion?
No.
Okay. Then, even if the doctor says, well, your child is going to be born deformed, still, we depend on Shastra. We're not supposed to kill a baby, either in the womb or when it's just coming out of the womb or after it's born. We're not supposed to kill babies. But today, they're very expert at killing babies. You know, I think the number is like, 1 million babies a year are killed, as they're coming out of the womb or in the womb. So it's very easy to get an abortion nowadays. Very, very easy. Previously, it was very difficult. Now in the United States, there are certain states that don't allow abortions. So you would have to go to a different state where they allow abortion, or you would have to go to a different country. That's only recently now that started, maybe 10 years ago. In some states, abortion is not permitted. Look that up, make sure I'm right. If women get really angry, why can't I get an abortion in this state? Yeah, lady, we don't want you to kill your own child. I think almost 1 million babies are aborted.
629,000, Maharaj.
Okay, 629,000. Okay, are aborted every year in the United States.
Abortion is banned in 13 US states: Alabama, Arkansas, Idaho, and the biggest 13 states. It's banned.
In 13 states.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is it? 51 states in the United States.
13 are not allowed.
Yeah. Well, you know how horrible that is? You abort your own child. That's really, really nasty. There was this one lady, she was hanging out with devotees one of her kids was a devotee. And one day we were sitting down together having prasadam, and she started telling us how proud she was that she had 5 abortions in her life. And she was talking about, how great it is to be able to do that. The nonsense lady. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. We will stop talking about abortions now. Get back to chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Have a good day. And always pray that people make the right decisions in life.
Very
Don't get misinformed.